This is the first time that I'm seeing so many people at a book release.
I've been such a huge fan of Mr. Bachchan. I don't think there's any human being alive in this world who has genuinely received so much love from so many people for so many years.
मैंने फंक्शन में आने से पहले कहा था कि मैं पोडियम पर बात नहीं करूंगी क्योंकि यहाँ पे या तो आई कैन बी सीन और आई कैन बी हर्ड. I had said that I want to speak on a microphone mobile where I can sit and talk, but the corporate people like to make their rules and creative people like to break them. It reminds me of an incident at the CAA, Confederation of Industries, where Mr. Bachchan was there with Sushma Swaraj. And Sushma Swaraj had to speak immediately after Mr. Bachchan. And the mic was in a very wrong position. So Sushma ji said, Mr. Bachchan has made it impossible for any short women to talk on the microphone. She also said कि मैं चौकड़ी लेकर अपने गाड़ी की डिक्की में घूमती हूँ और कोई भी मुझे कोई भी फंक्शन में बुलाता है तो मैं बोलती हूँ आपके पास चौकड़ी है. अगर वो लोग कहते हैं कि हमारे पास चौकड़ी नहीं है तो मैं बोलती हूँ मेरी डिक्की में है, उसे मंगा लीजिए, मगर मुझे मेरी शक्ल तो दिखनी चाहिए कि मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ. Neville Tuli was warned that I want a chokri. There is no chokri for me. Can I have a mic? That one? No, I'll take that one. Yeah, give me this. No, but I want to sit and talk.
All right. Okay.
Is it working? Yeah, perfect. Neville, I'm going to break rules and sit down and talk. I can't stand and talk for so long. First and foremost, I would like to thank all my film fraternity people who have made a special effort to come all the way. Some seniors, some my contemporaries, some younger than me. Especially, I can't take everybody's name, but Anandji Bhai, Pyare Bhai, Sonali and Roop Kumar Rathore, Bijan Das Gupta. The lights are such that I can't spot everybody. So many of them are people who don't really go always out of the way, but one phone call and they were ready to come. Most important is Zeenat Aman. She has always been there for me. She was there even at my first book release, and she's here today. I remember the first time I went to interview her, I wore green eyeshadow and some loose trousers which were in vogue at that time, because I thought this is the way I am supposed to look when I go to interview a glamorous girl like her. Thank you, Amir Khan, for agreeing to come. The last book when I released on Mr. Bachchan, after the event I told him, पता नहीं सब लोग आपकी स्पीच की इतनी ज़्यादा क्यों तारीफ़ कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि मेरी स्पीच आपसे बेहतर थी. And nobody praised me, by the way. He took a long pause and he said, your speech was read out and mine was extempore. 10 years and 9 books later, I am trying to do what Mr. Bachchan had not given me a compliment for. It's possible that I'll make some mistakes on dates and facts, but you all have to bear with me. Everybody knows about Mr. Bachchan's success, about his awesome personality. Everybody knows that before he struck lottery with Zanjeer, he had more than a dozen failures. Everybody knows that he had decided to pack his bag and go back to Allahabad. Everybody also knows that if in case Zanjeer was a hit, he planned his first foreign trip. What Mr. Bachchan doesn't know is that my association with him began also in 1973. My college friends and I had booked ticket for Zanjeer, and for some strange reason, everybody had thought me the most responsible one to preserve the tickets. As luck would have it, I lost the tickets somewhere in my train ride to the college. I had only two options, either to confess to my friends that I'd lost the tickets, which means I have to tell my parents and they foot the bill. I was not willing to burden my parents, so I came up with a master plan. We lived in Matunga those days. I asked my sister to accompany me, believe it or not, to King Circle police station. When I entered the police station, they were giving us some suspicious glances. But just at that time, a police inspector with many stars on his shoulder spotted us and took us to his desk, and without so much as even making eye contact, dismissed us and said, "Your tickets will be recovered." We didn't believe him, but on Friday first show, I had not yet told my friends that I had lost the tickets. There was a constable, and he came and gave me the tickets. The episode emphasizes two things. One, our faith in the police department. In 1973, when I was not the daughter of any politician, I was able to recover my tickets. Halfway through the film, my sister bent and said, "I say, this Vijay is even better than our Vijay." Our Vijay was the police inspector we had met. He was also called Vijay. And he was extremely handsome. Something had happened after Zanjeer. Something about the way anger was expressed. Because in the college canteen, whenever the boys were angry, they were all kicking the chair. Came 1975, and I was watching Diwar, once again with my sister. Of course, she will have no memory because she keeps company with Amir Khan and Ghazini. Sometimes I wonder if we are siblings and children of the same parents. I was watching the movie in Badal Bijli Theatre, which today does not exist. Those days, there was often power failure. And in the last reel, when the hero is talking to the deity, the power went out. Normally, it used to take about 1 hour for the power to come back, and most of the time, people used to leave the theatre, depending at what stage the power went out. I remember distinctly that nobody stirred out of the theatre. Everybody waited for the scene to come back, replay, and watch it. When the movie ended, as girls, we were warned to be careful about the hooligans who were getting out of the theatre because there were cat calls, and there was a kind of a sound that came out in the passage when people finished the movie. None of the sounds existed. It was a different ambience. Something was happening. There was the power of the words, the magic of the screenplay, magic of the dialogue that had stirred everybody and that had made everybody subdued. It must have been a combination of all these things that in 1978, without planning, without wanting to, without having any journalist in my family, while doing my post-graduation, I landed as a journalist. After some freelance assignments, I was taken as full-time reporter by Rauf Ahmed for Super magazine. Those days, they had a very prominent and a popular feature called Studio Roundup. It was a wonderful feature because usually a trainee reporter was sent to the sets and you spent time with the unit, listening to them, watching the shooting, and learned in the process. I was covering the shooting of Do Anjane in, I think, either Ranjit or Rooptara studio. I had spent some time there, watched 1 or 2 shots, spoken to perhaps Tulal Guha, though nobody really likes to talk to trainee reporters, so I must have been quite a pest. As I was going out, the watchman, the gatekeeper of the studio told me, "Amit ji aa gaye hai." Those days, all of us who have been in journalism in the 70s will understand that the gatekeeper was a very important character in our journalist career. He was the informer and also the sympathizer. I thought I should turn back and try my luck. So I went, there was a narrow corridor and there were his makeup rooms. Now I recall that no security guard was guarding his door. I knocked on his door and I went to meet him because I thought my editor would be extremely impressed. I knocked on his door and the booming voice inside said, "Come in." I entered the room, introduced myself, and waited. My first thought was, because it was a very tiny room, extremely small cubicle, that how can a tall frame fit into the room and how does he put his makeup on? And actually, I had never seen such a tall man in my life. And there's something about short people, I think we get scared of very tall people. जया बच्चन से ज़्यादा निडर औरत इस दुनिया में कोई नहीं है. She is scared of nobody and nothing, and I am easily frightened. Back to my story, you disturbed my thought process. As it is, Abhishek Bachchan was so mean to me. He first asked me, "Are you going to speak?" So I did this. "Are you prepared?" "You better be careful and don't trip while you're climbing onto the stage." When I had finished introducing myself to Mr. Bachchan, he kept staring at me. He next asked me, "Does your editor know that you are here?" I thought to myself, what a strange question this is. I said, "I don't know." Some answer I gave. So he said, "I suggest you go back to the office, ask your editor, and come back tomorrow." Looking back, I feel it was an extremely dignified answer. Young as I was completely unaware of the famous ban that had taken place between Bachchan and the media. Next day, when my editor was taking record of what had happened, and I told him slightly proudly, and I went to Amitabh Bachchan's room, he held his head and said, "Why did you go and talk to him? Don't you know?" I said, "No." That is the time I was informed about what had happened and why media and Bachchan were not talking. It's actually a very complicated and very intriguing story, and most of you are not aware, and I don't want to get into details because the truth is that even when my editor was explaining to me, I didn't fully understand. All I understood was that stay out of his boundary. I remembered the golden words and stayed out of his boundary. Came 1983, I had suffered a personal tragedy, and my editor thought it was a good time to send me on an outdoor location. It was soon after Bachchan's near-fatal accident and long hospitalization at the Breach Candy Hospital. He was extremely vulnerable and shooting for Pukar in Goa. Late Ramesh Behel, the producer of the film, had invited the press. Now I feel for perhaps a specific reason. Those days, there were all kinds of controversies floating in the media that perhaps Mr. Bachchan's health was not. Suddenly, too many people are coughing. Is the speech too long? Then I can stop. Okay. Mr. Tuli does not want me to tell the whole story of Goa. Mr. Bachchan. In Goa, it was the first time I traveled with Bachchan family and the Behel family. The elegant lady Shweta, who sits here just now, was a young girl who wore a frilly dress with a matching hat, and Abhishek was the sweetest little child that I had known. I saw the interactions between the parents. When we reached the hotel, Bachchan was pacing in the garden, waiting for his family. He was delighted to see the kids, and the kids were all over him. When I got back to Bombay, my editor asked me, "So what did Amitabh Bachchan say?" I said, "But you asked me to stay out of his boundary." So I didn't talk to him. He could not believe that I was in Goa for 3 days and I had not spoken a word to Mr. Bachchan. In '88, I was launching my G magazine and we needed pictures of him for the cover. It was the most expensive magazine to be ever launched in the country. The rest of the magazines were rupees 3 or 4, and this was going to be 12 rupees. My publishers had made a condition that the only way we can be assured of selling the magazine is if we have Mr. Bachchan on the cover. Doing a story on him was not difficult because we could do a desk story, but to get his pictures was impossible because he was not talking to anybody and not having any pictures that he was distributing, and no photographer who had shot him was willing to go against him. A friend of mine helped me to talk to him, but the pictures had still not reached my office. One day, as I was passing by his bungalow, I must have been really desperate. I left a scribbled, desperate note at his bungalow. The watchman was so embarrassed by the almost tissue paper-like paper that he refused to take it inside. When I went back to my office, it was the last day we could wait for the magazine to go for print. But by afternoon, a miracle had occurred. He had sent his pictures, and we were able to come out with the debut issue of G. In 1990, in a dramatic move, Bachchan lifted the ban on the press and started talking to the media. It must have taken a lot of effort, a lot of thinking, and a lot of courage of conviction for him to do that. One had thought that it would not be that easy because the media was also carrying a lot of baggage about him. But actually, the truth was extremely emotional. And he had been the forbidden fruit for so long that the media didn't seem to have enough of him. In 1998, I did my first book on him. And time and again, I have been asked that how did I do this book and why was I chosen for it? It was not as if that he had chosen me or I had planned the book. The book just happened. We had done so many interviews with him that one day my secretary threw up her hands and said, "Ma'am, I think it's now enough. You should not write any more on Bachchan." Because she had exhausted all names, A Bachchan, Amitabh Bachchan, AB Baby, Big B. The result of all that was my book. I went to show it to him, and I think he was crestfallen. Because without looking into the book, perhaps his first impression was that I trusted this girl and she has let me down. He felt at that time, perhaps, that I had put in a lot of information inside which I should not have. I remember that I told him that this book is not more precious to me than you. You take it home, you read it. If you think it's worth it, we can go ahead. If you think it's not worth it, I will tear it. 3 days later, he wanted to consult his wife. 3 days later, they had read the book and he told me that he was happy with it and we could go ahead. He didn't say he was happy. I'm adding that on my own. He never says anything complimentary. A compliment has not come in all these years. In 2001, I had another misfortune in my life, and I was scared that I was getting into a negative phase. And to make sure that I don't, I wanted to use that time productively, and I immediately planned the second book on him. I felt the first book was about the growth of him as an actor, his relationships, his adolescence, his father, his wife, his children. The second book, I wanted to concentrate completely on his career. I finished the book at a very breathless pace. But for some reasons, and also the WTC happened at that time, and there was a pall of gloom all over, we didn't go ahead with the book. And his favorite line is, "Apne man ka ho to acha, apne man ka na ho to aur bhi acha." I truly believe that it was not the right time. 2009, he completes 40 years, and this is the right time for the book. I went to Neville Tully, and I told him about the concept. He loved the concept. The interesting thing about a man of vision like Neville Tully is that for me, when I had planned the book, it was a small book of my size, like a little Ankur. But Neville Tully, with his magnificence, turned it into Sholay. From yesterday, I have been bombarded with many phone calls asking me, what is it about Bachchan that is special? Just on this, so that I don't go wrong, I have penned something which I'll quickly read. And Mr. Bachchan, the entire speech has been extempore, only this is read. He has traveled from black and white to color, from Dolby to Sing Sound, from print to electronic media, from single screen to multiplexes, from small budget to multi-starrers to English films, from older heroines to younger heroines, the list is endless. In his 182 films spanning 40 years, he has played all kinds of roles, donned all kinds of costumes, befriended so many animals, tiger, falcon, Alsatian, even a dolphin. He has walked on fire, rolled on mud, flew over carpet, and jumped over bombs. Just be patient with Neville Tully, it's one more page. He has played urban, rural, young, old, good, evil. He's the first to be regarded as a sex symbol in his autumn years, the first to stage concerts of international standards. His celebrity status transcends national boundaries, and his fame has spread to every corner of the globe, mark my word, without having to go through Hollywood. He is the sole survivor of his contemporaries and perhaps the only mainstream actor to be there at every turning point of Hindi cinema. It's my privilege to have done Bachchanalia with him.